All right, Yerosai. Good morning. Good morning. A good tevach. Lichtig Chanukah, such as Chos Baruch Hashem. To begin another week of Sanhedrin, a very special welcome to one of our remote listeners, Michael Goldsmith, who's here joining us with his son Joey. Baruch Hashem in Baltimore for the weekend. Michael is the guy in the yellow sweatshirt. Joey's the guy in the blue sweatshirt. Make sure, I'm not going to make him stand up. But the colors, I color identifying them. So make sure to give them a shalom aleichem, a warm welcome. It's Baruch Hashem to have you guys here with us today. Let's begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's share. To thank our annual TALMUD TORAH sponsors, the Tilson Family of Yisroel, for dedicating all the shiurim and drashos this year. Is a zechus, besuros, tovos for all of Am Yisroel. Our TALMUD TORAH sponsors for the month of Kislev, tovos, Josh and Becca Friedman, and creation of the Yahrzeit of Josh's father, Yisroel Yehuda, HaRav Chaim Rephael, for the zechus of the safe return of our hostages and the security and safety of all of our soldiers. Sammy and Malka Esterson for dedicating the shiurim this month in memory of their parents, Yitzchak Laib ben Aharon HaKohen, Sarah Rachel bas Baruch Avraham, and Hinda bas Henech Efrayim, and in memory of their dear friend, brave soldier, beloved husband and father and skilled physiotherapist, Naftali Gordon, Naftali Yonah Hy, ben Beatrice, Miriam, and Daniel Yigal. Our week of learning sponsors, Bruce Levin, in the merit of Avital Kala Bas Tova Batya, Zichron Livracha, and Paul and Kathy Pollock, in memory of Paul's aunt, Esther Bas Zechariah. We hope that in the merit of our TALMUD TORAH, all of the Neshama Slav and Aliyah, the families in Nechama, all those who need a refuah should have one together with Kol Choli Yisrael. The Ribbon Shalom should bring home our hostages, b'shalom and b'karav, and allow our holy soldiers to be successful. B'chol Maaseh Yedehem. But with that, let us begin. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today, really incredible daf actually ahead of us today. Today's daf is Yud Beis 12. And we are picking up. Yesterday, HaRav Silber gave shir. He did a great job, covered a lot of ground in not a lot of time. Made his father proud and put him to shame at the same time. So it was, but we are picking up on Yud Aleph on the days of the last line. Ten Rabbanon. Mamish got all the way through the daf. It was impressive. Ten Rabbanon. So remember again, still talking about some of the halachos concerning declaring a leap month, or we'll call it's not really called the leap month. Well, really, there's three pieces over here, right? There's whether or not to make a month a mali or a chaser, 30 versus 31 days, or 30 versus 29 versus 30 days, right? And then also, we're focusing much more over here in terms of actually creating a leap year, which means adding in the additional month. You won't say, it just hit me last night. I only got to sit down to prepare the daf later on last night, and it was a little bit quiet for like 30 seconds, and it struck me such a profound idea that we're doing these gemaras of Kiddush HaChodesh, or really the gemaras of Iber Shana on Chanukah. Again, the Yevanim wanted to wipe out three things: Shabbos, Milah, and Chodesh. They wanted to wipe out Shabbos, wanted to wipe out Bris Milah, and they wanted to eradicate the calendar. And it is incredible that thousands of years after this miracle, what are we doing? We're sitting down, we're learning the Sanhedrin, and we're learning all about how to structure the calendar. It's incredible. Not only do we light our beautiful neros, not only do we celebrate our victory, but we learn it. It's part of our daily lives. We're still involved in the halachos concerning the calendar, even though our enemies thousands of years ago and so many times afterwards tried to take it from us. See, the Gemara is told with so many details, but yet these details represent the very neshama and the very strength of Klal Yisrael. Incredible. Tan Rabbanan, Ema Arinas Hashana, B'shnei Ra'avon, top of Yud Beis, 12a. You cannot declare a leap year during a famine. So you can look at top Rashi on Yud Beis Mendalef, B'shnei Ra'avon, Lefi Shekala Tvua, Tzrichen Lachom Min HaChadash. So you think to yourself, what does the calendar have to do with a famine? So this is very important. Remember, the halacha is, when are you allowed to eat from Chadash? When are you allowed to eat from the new grain? Only after the Karban Omer has been offered. Right? Remember again. So just to get everything clear, new grain represents any grain that was planted since last Pesach. So for example, right? So you plant grain since last Pesach, Tav Shin Pei Dalet, 5784. So any grain that has grown after Pesach of 5784 cannot be consumed until after the second day of Pesach, Tafshin Pei 5785, where we offer up the Karban Omer. Remember again, the Karban Omer is a barley offering. After that, Chadash, the new crop, becomes permitted. If you go ahead and you declare a leap year, so remember again, as we've seen and we'll see again today's daf, what's the leap month in a leap year? It's Adar. So you add in an extra Adar, what does that do? That effectively delays the Karban Omer by an additional month. Well, in a famine here, where food is scarce, delaying the Karban Omer for another month prevents people from eating Chadash for another month. Therefore, the Gemara says, even though there might be other grounds that would require you to go ahead and declare a leap year, halacha l'maisa, if it's a famine, no leap year. Rabbi says, so Tanya, the Gemara calls a brisa. And that was interestingly enough, the Gemara says, listen to this brisa. Rabbi says as follows: V'ish ba mi bal shalisha. There was a man. Gemara is telling a story from Malachim Beis. There was a man who came from Baal Shalisha. And I both say Baal Shalisha is the name of a place. And what happened? Vayavol le'isha Elokim, vayavei le'isha Elokim, lechem bikurim, esrim lechem sorim. So we'll say, so this is talking about Eliyahu Navi. So there was a guy who came from Baal Shalisha, and he brought to the Ish Elokim, to the man of God, lechem bikurim, esrim lechem sorim, karma. Fine. So the Gemara says, ve'in lecha kalash b'chol Eretz Yisrael levashel perosel. He goes to Baal Shalisha. Now, Baal Shalisha was apparently an area in Eretz Yisrael where the crops matured at a relatively fast pace. That's where they had the earliest blossoming crop. Va'afa pikein lo bichra ela min echad. And yet, interestingly enough, in this particular scenario, only the sorim, only the barley had matured. So the Gemara says, Shema Tomar chitim. Maybe you'll say, oh, it must have been wheat. No, Talmud Lomar sorim. It was barley. Shema Tomar Lefnei Omer. Maybe you'll say that this occurred before the Karban Omer. Now, by the way, if you look at Rashi for just a moment, Rashi says lechem bikurim, lechem aviv, mashma she'achshav hayim mevaker. So in the story, this man is bringing Eliyahu Hanavi, and he's bringing him crop that the earliest, not blossoming is the wrong word. What am I looking for? What? Ripening, yeah, ripen, maturing, sprouting. Come on, Chavra, get your agricultural terms together. What's going on over here? Good, okay, fine. Sprouting, blossoming, good, maturing. So he's bringing him, I don't know what the right term for like wheat is, but okay, we'll call it maturing. So he's bringing him the earliest maturing, blossoming, sprouting crop. And what is it? It's barley. Shema Talmud Lefnei Omer. Maybe you say this is occurring before the Omer was offered. Talmud Lomar. Therefore, the pasuk says, "Tein la'am v'yochlu achar ha'omer." So, Tein la'am v'yochlu achar ha'omer haya. Emer me'ata. What do you see from here? Ru'uya haisa osa shah shetis aber. What you see from here is, again, Rav is talking about a year of famine. So you see from here, this was a year that could have been made into a leap year. Sorry, that wasn't Eliyahu, it was Elisha. Why didn't Elisha declare it as a leap year? Because it was a famine. So the Gemara is just bringing this episode by Elisha, apologize, not by Eliyahu, by Elisha, to show us that even though, again, this was the type of year where normally, again, you would have made a leap year. Because most remember, again, when do you go ahead and make a leap year? Remember, generally, in a vacuum, what drives the declaration of a leap year? Pesach. Because Pesach has to be Chag HaAviv. Pesach has to be in the spring. So generally, what would drive a leap year is when you see that Pesach is going to fall out in the winter, you would add on an additional Adar to go ahead and push Pesach to the spring. So the Gemara is talking about over here, we're in a situation where you see the crops were not yet developed. Normally, again, that would be a reason to introduce a second Adar and make a leap year. Yet, why didn't Elisha go ahead and declare a leap year? Why? It was a famine. Because again, by creating a leap year in a year of famine, pushes off the Karban Omer for an additional month. Pushing off the Karban Omer for an additional month prevents the consumption of Chadash for an additional month, which just exacerbates the effects of the famine. So we're just bringing this story to show that where there is a famine, we do not declare a leap year. Good. Tarabanon. In Ma'abrines Hashana, Lifnei Rosh Hashanah. This is an interesting case. We do not declare a leap year before Rosh Hashanah. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. In Ma'abrin, Rashi says, "In Yoshin Bezdin Kodim Rosh Hashanah la'ayin v'lomar tis'aber shana zu b'shnei adarim mipnei sheyichyeh b'dara kodim sheyagia u'mezazli b'chametz." So both say this is very interesting. we do not allow the Beis Din to sit in session and declare a leap year before Rosh Hashanah. What are we concerned about? It's too far out. It's too far out. Now remember again, by declaring a leap year, also what you effectively do is you push off Pesach, and there's a concern that there may be some type of calendrical ambiguity, date ambiguity, and therefore some halachic confusion surrounding chametz, which of course could be a very severe thing. So therefore, we do not go ahead and sit in session to declare. So before Rosh Hashanah would be too early already. Vim ibra, eina mu'beres. And if you did so, right, what happens if Beis Din did sit in session before Rosh Hashanah to declare a new month, to declare an Iber Yar, a leap year? It does not work. It does not work. However, aval mipnei adchak ma'avrin osa achar Rosh Hashanah miyad. But if there are extenuating circumstances, what you can do is declare it a leap year immediately after Rosh Hashanah. So under no circumstances can you ever declare a leap year before Rosh Hashanah. But again, if there's extenuating circumstances, as we'll discuss, then Allah again, you could do it right after Rosh Hashanah. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. So we'll say, what's an example of an extenuating circumstance that would prevent you from declaring a leap year later on in the year? So listen to this. Look at Rashi. So first of all, we'll say, in general, the ideal time to declare a leap year is when? Adar. In other words, let me clarify that. The only additional month that could be inserted to declare a leap year is Adar. But when is the best time to make that decision? Somewhere around Adar itself. Certainly can't do it under any circumstances before Rosh Hashanah. If extenuating circumstances, you could do it right after Rosh Hashanah. What's an example of extenuating circumstances? Let's say you're not going to have a Beis Din. Remember, we'll say for Iber Yar, for declaring a leap year, you need a Beis Din of smuchim, right? People have to have smicha. So let's say for whatever the reason is, you're not going to be able to convene that Beis Din. You have them together now after Rosh Hashanah. You're not going to be able to get them back together. So that would be an example of an extenuating circumstance. I'm reading Rashi. Shema Yavo Hamelech Edomi via Akev Al Yadan. We'll say this is wild. It's Chanukah, right? Or maybe a king from the nation of Edom. Greece, Rome, maybe right? V'ya'akev al yadan ma'abrin osam odian legola achar Rosh Hashanah miyashav runa. So we'll say this is incredible. So let's say again, either you're not going to have a Beis Din together, or someone is trying to tamper with the calendar. We'll say, isn't this incredible? This is mamish Chanukah. The kisum the Ribono Sha'olam on the Yom Tov of Chanukah. So therefore, again, under those circumstances, you could convene right after Rosh Hashanah in order to go ahead and declare the new year. So this is very interesting. And even though you could do that, but remember the only leap month that we add in is Adar. So again, under no circumstances can you engage in this process before Rosh Hashanah. You could do it immediately after Rosh Hashanah, right? If it's an extenuating circumstance. But even when there's an extenuating circumstance, remember, the only additional month that we're ever inserting into the calendar is Adar. So what's interesting about this is you could declare an Adar Beis even back in Tishrei. Right, even back in Tishrei. But even if you're doing it in Tishrei, it's still only an Adar. Incredible. Ini, is that so? So the Gemara says, "V'ha shal cholei l'Rava." So we'll say this is fascinating. But they went ahead and they said the following message to Rava. So we'll say, so in the times of Rava, they had a situation like this. Now, if you'll notice over here, essentially the story that's going to unfold over here is someone, the king, the Pashtos. It was. I don't know if it's the Greeks or the Romans, but it was one of them who was trying to tamper with the calendar. So they sent this coded message to Rava. So watch this. Here's the code. Zug ba merakes v'tavsu nesher. There was a pair who came from Rakes, but the eagle captured them. Now, what does this mean? Take a look at Rashi. Ba merakes. Now, Rakes, I will say, is Tiberia. Now, by the way, we know this because the Gemara Maseches Megillah speaks about this, that Rakes is Tiberia. So there was a zug, two people. Who are the two people? Rashi says, two Talmidei Chachamim. So two Torah scholars who are coming from Tiberia. Now what happens? V'tafsu nesha, the eagle took them. Actually, Rashi says, Chel Parsian, Persians. Right? The Persians got a hold of them. The Persians captured them. Ubiyadam devarim hana'aseh beluz. And they were carrying with them items made in luz. Now we'll say, what are the items made in luz? Umaynihu tchelas. first tcheles. So they were carrying from Tiberia, they were carrying tcheles. Rashi says over here, Torah nasim beluz, tichla, tcheles, beluz osin osa, kidamin besota, hiluz shetzovin ba tcheles. So it makes sense. Remember again, Tiberia has the Kinneret, right? So apparently again, the chilazon snail, or the chilazon, I don't know if it's a snail, something in the mollusk family, right? So the chilazon snail produces the dye for the tcheles. So it's incredible. So there's two Talmidei Chachamim were carrying tcheles from Tiberia. The Persian officers came and arrested them. So the Gemara says, so umayni tcheles bischus harachamim ubischusam yatsu b'shalom. This is incredible. So literally again, bischus harachamim, because of divine compassion, ubischusam, and in their own merit, yatsu b'shalom. These two Talmidei Chachamim were able to escape from this encounter, unharmed. I will say, by the way, that phrase by itself is so profound as well. You see from here what? A tremendous Musar Haskell. That in order to be successful in life, you need two things. Zchus Rachamim and Zechusam. You need a Chalish Baruch Hu, but you also have to put in your own work. Sometimes in life we make the mistake of just putting everything in the hands of Hashem. And while it's true that the Ribono Shel Olam controls all of the results, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls all of the realities, at the end of the day, life demands of us to invest ourselves into creating our own realities as well. You cannot just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show of life. A person has to put in maximum effort, while recognizing that even with that maximum effort, ultimately success cannot be realized without HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That phrase is so profound. Bischus rachamim u bischusam. Because of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and because of them, yatsu b'shalom. They were successful. In other words, they escaped. Va'amusei yirechei nachshon bikshu likvoa nitziv echad velo henichan adomi halaz. Okay, so now we come to the part of the story that is relevant to our sugya. Now, what happened? Va'amusei means afterwards, right? Va'amusei yirechei, and afterwards, officers of Nachshon. Right? Amusei Yerichei Nachshon. So afterwards, officers, the descendants of Nachshon. Who are the officers that are the descendants of Nachshon? Look at Rashi, right across in Rashi. Amusei Yerichei Nachshon, Nasi Shemeretz Yisrael, Shumizar Nachshon ben Aminadav, Rishon l'Nesiim. Right? The first of the Nesiim. Also again, Chanukah again, right? Also all the karbanos of the Nesiim. All the Kavanas of the Nesiim, right? Nachshon ben Aminadav, one of the Nesiim. So they called the Nasi of Eretz Yisrael a descendant of Nachshon ben Aminadav. So the Nasi of Eretz Yisrael, what did he want to do? He wanted Bikshu Likboa Nitziv. He wanted Nitziv Echad. He wanted to go ahead and add on or establish an additional pillar. Now, what does it mean that the Nasi of Eretz Yisrael wanted to establish an additional pillar? He wanted to add on an extra month to the year. Look at Rashi. Bikshu Likboa Nitziv Echad. Bikshu Lahosef Chodesh Echad Al Hashana La'abra. He wanted to add on an additional month to make it a leap year. We'll say, isn't this incredible? Right? Nachshon ben Aminadav, Chanukah, calendar, Chanukah. And now again they want to add on an additional month. And what happened? V'lo henichan adomi halaz. But this Edomite did not allow them to go ahead and add on an additional month. Right? Because they were tampering with the calendar. They wanted to prevent the adding of an additional month. Aval, Ba'ale Asufos, Nesfu v'kavo lo nitziv echad b'yarach shemes bo Aharon HaKohen. So we'll say, but what happened afterwards? So the Gemara says, the Ba'alei Asufos came along, right? And the Ba'alei Asufos, so who are the Ba'alei Asufos? Look at Rashi for just a moment. So Rashi says over here, good. Ba'alei Asufos was the Beis Din, right? So the Beis Din came along. Ba'alei Asufos nesu v'kavo lo nitziv echad. They added on an additional month, b'yarach shemes bo Aaron. And when did they add on this additional month? They added on this additional month again in the month that Aaron died. Now we'll say, what's the month that Aaron died? Av. Chodesh Av. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. B'yarach shemes bo Aaron. Ba'av. So we'll say, so again, that's is this not a dramatic story? This is not an absolutely incredible story. So first of all, two parts of the story. Number one, you can imagine, right, Talmidei Chachamim trying to smuggle tcheles. They're smuggling tcheles out of Tiberia. They got arrested for smuggling tcheles, religious articles. But Baruch Hashem, besuros rachamim, besuros atzmam, they were able to escape. Then they want to declare a leap year, right? They want to add an additional adar. They couldn't do it. The king prevented them from doing it, but somehow they were able to go ahead. Bali Asufos, they were able to get together, they were able to do it. But here's what's interesting: when did they do it? They did it in the month that Aaron died, which is Av. So I suggest to understand what this means, right? They were declaring, now remember, when they were declaring a leap year, they were declaring it for which year? For which year? The calendar year to come, right? So, but when are they doing it? In Chodesh Av. Now, what did we just say before? We just learned before that the earliest that you could declare a leap year is when the earliest is after Rosh Hashanah, right? You can't do the Rosh. Here, they're declaring a leap year in the month of Av. What's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, Chashuve machashvi, geluye lo miglu. You're right. The Gemara says, no, you have to understand what happened over here. What they did is, they made a decision. But they did not publicize it until after Rosh Hashanah. So in other words, what the Gemara is introducing to us is as follows, that sometimes under extenuating circumstances, if again the rabbinic leadership sees that a leap year needs to be declared, they could make that decision, that policy decision, even before Rosh Hashanah. But we do not publicize it to the masses until when? Until after Rosh Hashanah. The earliest until after Rosh Hashanah. Incredible. Chashuve mechashvi giluye lo maglu. So again, they decided, they made the strategic decision, but they did not reveal it. Look at Rashi. Giluye lo miglu ad la'achar Rosh Hashanah shelo yishkechu b'nei agola. But by the way, there's a logistical issue over here. We're concerned that if you talk about the leap year too early, what's going to happen? People are going to forget about it. Right? It's not like a calendrical issue. It's just a human nature issue. Speak about something months in advance, and people will simply forget about it by the time it becomes relevant. So we want to really get it out to the populace as late in the year, as close to Adar as possible. But again, what you see from here is just procedurally, the decision to create a leap year could happen even before that actual calendrical year starts. The earliest you could share it with the populace is after Rosh Hashanah. Incredible. So Gemara says, by the way, just my mashma the high nitziv lishna diyachos. So both say in this whole coded message, right? It's fascinating. In this whole coded message to Rava, they referred to a month as a nitziv, which literally means like a pillar. So the Gemara says, by the way, how do you know that? Why does a nitziv mean a month? So the Gemara says, dichsiv u'lishlomo shnei masar nitzivim al kol Yisrael. Shlomo HaMelech had 12 people who were in charge of the collection of taxes from Klal Yisrael. V'kilkulu es HaMelech v'es anashav chodesh b'shana. So again, he had 12 different people in charge of taxes. Each tax guy had his 1 month, and those taxes supported the king and his family. One second, just the Gemara says, but there's a contradiction. V'aksiv v'nitziv echad asher ba'aretz. But the pasuk says that there was only one tax collector. So which one was it? Was there 12 or was there one? To which the Gemara says, Rav Yehuda, so Rav Yehuda of Rav Nachman, Chad Amar Echa B'muna Akulon, the Chad Amar Kineged Chodesh HaIbor. So one says that there were 12 tax collectors, but there was one guy who, like the tax CEO, who sat on top of all of them. And the other opinion says, no, the pasuk that makes a reference to the one tax collector, that was actually the additional guy for when there was a leap year. There was a 13th individual for a leap year. Okay, incredible Gemara will say. So we'll say, this is an interesting case. It's an interesting Gemara as well. You cannot declare a leap year from 1 year to the next. Now, what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi. So we'll say, let's say we know that 5785 needs to be a leap year. Ella hatzricha tisaber. So we'll say, actually, let me say it differently. Let's say we know already, looking at the calendar, that 5786 is going to need to be a leap year. So have a great chap. You know what? I could accomplish the same thing by what? Making 5785 a leap year. In other words, just add on an extra adder over here, and that'll course correct for next year. We don't do that. Rather, again, the only time we make a leap, in other words, if a year needs to be a leap year, we only make it in that year, even though we see that, again, I know 5786 is going to need to be a leap year. We don't say, hey, just do it this year, let it correct. Rather, only the year itself that actually needs to be a leap year is the one that we make into a leap year. That's incredible. So we'll say, I think that there's a tremendous Musar Haskell in this also. Life is about this incredible, delicate balance between present focused and forward thinking. And sometimes we become so hyper focused in planning for the future that we forget to maximize the present. I remember a number of years ago, I saw a beautiful piece by Aharon Lichtenstein, where he referred to the fact that many of us live with a 401k mentality, right? What's the 401k mentality? Everything is about my retirement. Everything is about my retirement, right? How much money I'm going to have in my retirement, what I'm going to do with my retirement, how I'm going to live with my retirement. And Lichtenstein was pointing out that it presupposes, number one, that you're going to live to retirement, right? Right? That's number one. And number two, that the circumstances of your life are not going to dramatically change between now and then. And he says people place so much emphasis on what they're going to have in retirement and the life, right? The dreams and the life of retirement that they forget to maximize the present. On the other hand, just to live in the present with absolutely no regard for the future is, of course, unhealthy and irresponsible. So, there's a Gemara like this, the most beautiful Gemara. The Gemara says, the Masech Shabbos, David HaMelech asked the Ribono Shel Olam, when am I going to die? So Kadosh Baruch Hu told David, you're going to die on a Shabbos. David says, I don't want to die on Shabbos. He says, let me die on Sunday. He says, you can't die on Sunday, because by Sunday already, the Gemara says, Kvar higia eis Shlomo bincha limloch. By Sunday already, it's time for your son Shlomo's monarchy. Vein malchus nogia bechaver tafilu k'malinema. One monarchy cannot overlap with another monarchy, even a hair's breadth. So David says, no, okay, fine, I'll die on Erev Shabbos. Let me die on Friday. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, David HaMelech, Tov yom echad b'chatzerecha. One day of your life in this world is more important to me than the tens of thousands of karbanos that they will bring in the Beis HaMikdash that your son Shlomo is going to build. One day of life, a maximization of the present, could sometimes be more powerful than an entire unscripted future. So there is this incredible balance. You have to be forward-thinking, but sometimes we become so forward-thinking that we sacrifice our present for the sake of some future that may or may not materialize the way we want it. So do you have to plan for the future? Absolutely. But my planning for the future can never be at the expense of the maximization of my present. So I know that 5786 has to be a leap year. We'll deal with it then. And I will say what that means is that sometimes it's tempting to try to deal with problems before they occur. Right? It's good to be a forward-thinking person. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you just have to maximize what you got in front of you, live the life that you have. When the problems come up, when the issues come up, you'll deal with it then. Because if you try to proactively deal with every single issue, right, solve every problem before it surfaces, right, go ahead and plan for the future so that nothing goes, you sacrifice your present. So the Gemara says, when it comes to a leap year, we'll deal with it when we have to. Right now, maximize the year, maximize the time that you have in front of you. Such an incredible Gemara. Furthermore, this is interesting, you cannot create 3 consecutive leap years. Right? Now, both say, now the truth is, that makes a lot of sense. Why can't you do that? Because at the end of the day, then you're going to irreparably damage the calendar. If you look at Rashi says, "V'lo shalosh alam zuach hazu shimkein mishtanos hashanim mitikunam ubalo nisan hashlishi be'emtza hakayetz." Right? If you make 3 consecutive leap years, Pesach will fall out in the summer, and then again I will say once you do that, you're not. You won't really be able to course correct. So therefore, again, can't do 3 consecutive. You can't go three consecutive leap years. Incredible. Okay, so we'll say, watch this. I'm Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon says, really? We'll say, get ready. I feel like I should give everybody a break to get a refill on the coffee. Right? Get ready. Get ready for this Gemara. This is crazy. So it was Rabbi Shimon. Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva. Right? We'll say, tell me, I feel like sometimes in Gemara, like whenever you hear a certain name, it's like your heart wells up with emotion. Whenever you hear Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva, and you know whatever it is, it's going to be something transformative. Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva, sheyichyeh bebeis hasurim. I'll say Rabbi Akiva was incarcerated. Now, whenever the Gemara tells us about Rabbi Akiva being incarcerated, just on the Rabbi Akiva was one of the Asar Harugei Malchus, right? He was one of the 10 martyrs executed, and not just executed, but brutalized by the Romans. So whenever the Gemara tells a story about Rabbi Akiva being incarcerated, this is Rabbi Akiva being incarcerated before his execution, before his death. So Rabbi Akiva is incarcerated. V'iber shalosh shanim zu achar zu. What did Rabbi Akiva do in jail? What did he do in jail? He planned the calendar. Now, it sounds like what he did over here was he planned the calendar for the next 3 years. Now, when we read this phrase, what it sounds like the Gemara is saying is he declared 3 consecutive leap years. Right? So he's in jail, awaiting execution. He plans 3 consecutive leap years. So what's I say? The Gemara says, so remember, Rabbi Shimon is bringing this up. Why is Rabbi Shimon bringing this up? Because we just said before that what? You cannot make 3 consecutive leap years. Rabbi Akiva made 3 consecutive leap years. Amrulo Mishomrai, no. You are misunderstanding the story. Beis din Yashvu, the kavu achas bizmana. No. What they were doing was they recognized that Rabbi Akiva was not going to be around for much longer. So they sat down to Rabbi Akiva and they said, Rabbi, help us plan the future. It's such an overwhelming Gemara. Rabbi, you're not going to be here. Help us plan the future. So Rabbi Akiva scripted the next 3 leap years. They weren't consecutive, however they were spaced. The next 3 leap years, Rabbi Akiva was doing. So he was saying, Rabbi Akiva was taking care of Klal Yisrael even when he was not going to be here. So he sat down and he organized the calendar. I will say it's also very profound, that what is Rabbi Akiva busy with when he's in jail? When he's in jail, what is he? He's busy with time, with the calendar. See, Rabbi Akiva, I think, was also teaching us was the one thing you always control in this world is how you use your time. And you can't always control your parnasa. You certainly can't control your health. There's a lot of things in this world that you can't control. But how you use your time, how you use your calendar, right? How you set up your years, that's up to you. You're right. You may be compromised in many different ways. But what you choose, how you choose to use your time, with the hand that you've been dealt, that is the ultimate bechira we have in this world. Rabbi Akiva is sitting in jail, awaiting execution at the most barbaric, the hands of such barbaric tormentors. And what is he doing? Time, chavra. Time. It's all about how you utilize your time. Incredible. Tan Rabbanon. Ema Arenes Hashana, lo b'shviyas, lo mas yeshviyas. Well, some other times where you can't go ahead. Some other times where you can't go ahead and make an Ibri or make a leap year, right? When is it? Shemitah, which makes a lot of sense, right? You cannot make Shemitah into a leap year, right? Because again, it's going to create hardship. And not a Matzeh Shviyas. So we'll say, what's the issue on Matzeh Shviyas? Matzeh Shviyas means year 8, year after Shemitah. What's the issue over here? Same thing, Chadash, right? Remember, anytime you're making a leap year, that means the carbon omer is going to be offered a month later. If carbon omer is offered a month later, that means you can't consume the new crop for an additional month. So on a Shemitah year, that's a big deal. And in general, you don't want to prolong a Shemitah year, right? Post Shemitah, also big deal. So the Gemara says, so when was a time where people often made a leap year? Erev Shviyas. Interesting. On the year before a Shemitah year, that's a good year for a leap year. And I will say, again, I want to be clear. Remember, the only reason you're really making a leap year is because of this whole Pesach Chaga Aviv thing. But again, there are other circumstances that also came into play that could kind of tip the scales in the favor of a leap year, like the year before a Shemitah year. Incredible. So the Gemara says, "Shal beis Rabbi Gamliel hayma abim matzei shviyas." So interestingly enough, yet let's say in Rabbi Gamliel's home, right, or I should say in the base of Rabbi Gamliel, in the home of Rabbi Gamliel, when they say base of Rabbi Gamliel, that means like the rabbinic home of Rabbi Gamliel, they would sometimes go ahead and make a Shemitah year. Make a leap year in the year after Shviyas, in the year after Shemitah. Now, both say now, what is that machlokes about? In other words, so why is it that some would make a leap year in year number 8 and some wouldn't? Or beplukta dahani tanoi. It's really based on flying machlokes. Well, it's fascinating. So remember, the Sanya, ein mevin yarak mechutz la'aretz, ve'rabosenu hitiru. So I say, can you import vegetables from chutz la'aretz to Eretz Yisrael? Now, what would be the issue? So it's machlokes. Some say yes, some say no. And I understand the ability to go ahead and import vegetables, right, from chutz la'aretz to Eretz Yisrael will make a dramatic difference for year number 8, right? Because again, in the Shemitah year itself, you're still kind of okay, right? Why are you okay? Because remember again, you have the previous year's crop and whatever grows from the land by itself. In year number 8, that's the year where again, you have not worked the field on year number 7. So the ability to import produce from outside of Eretz Yisrael was a big deal. Says Machlokas, can you import non-Eretz Chutz La'aretz produce into Eretz Yisrael? Machlokas. What's the Machlokas? Rabbi Yirmiyah Choshishin Legusheyan Ika Benayu. So I'll say this is fascinating. What would be the issue with importing vegetables from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael? So remember again, Chazal made a general takana that the earth, the soil of Chutz La'aretz is tamei. Now, why is that? Because in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael, people were not careful about where they bury the dead. So in general, there's a general rabbinic tumah. We've seen this many times before. General rabbinic tumah on soil of Chutz La'aretz. So what's the concern? Sometimes when you import vegetables, right? What do vegetables come with? They come with like their dirt. So the question is, do we want importing vegetables to Eretz Yisrael, knowing that you may end up bringing in some dirt along with it, which could cause the proliferation of tumah in Eretz Yisrael? So one opinion says we are choshesh for that, and because we're choshesh for that, we're not importing vegetables. Because we're not importing vegetables from Chutz La'aretz, therefore, again, do not make year number 8 into a leap year, because you're just prolonging the carbon, right, bringing up the carbon omer and consumption of chadash. Another opinion says, no, we're not worried about that. We're not worried about the dirt of Chutz La'aretz coming into Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, again, you can import vegetables. Because you can import vegetables, therefore, again, there is a more steady food supply. Take a look at Rashi. Choshishin legushehen. Rashi says, Shemayavi ima mogush eretz ha'amim shemetame ba'ohel v'itame taros shal Eretz Yisrael. Fine. So let's go back there. Tana Rabbanan. Ema abrinas hashanim ne'atuma. So this is very interesting. This is fascinating, actually. We do not go ahead and create a leap year based on tumah. Now, what does this mean, ne'atuma? Look at Rashi. This is Rashi, 4 lines up from the bottom. Kigon, Shahaya Nasi Chola. This is fascinating. You must imagine the following situation. The Nasi, who's the head of Eretz Yisrael Jewry. By the way, you could put Melech, king, in there also. Someone who is very important, and whom, when he dies, everyone is going to go to his levaya. Watch this. So, for example, let's say the Nasi is very ill. V'amdu alamos erev Pesach, o shnei yamim kodim, v'yu tmeim, O shahaya ruban tmeim besof adar v'kol sa'afra para ve'in yecholim limtza achshav para aduma ema'abrin bekach elayasu b'toma. All right, so we'll say this is a fascinating case. So here's the scenario. Let's say we know that the majority of Klal Yisrael is going to be in a state of tumah by the time Pesach comes around. Now, how could that happen? That could happen as either, again, somebody very important is going to die. Everyone's going to go to the levaya. So we know, and let's say again, the way it's going to work is there's not going to be time to become tahar before Pesach starts, or the Klal Yisrael is tamei, the majority is tamei, and there's no more para aduma ashes. Remember, there's only way to become ritually pure from corpse tuma, which is para aduma. Either way, we're facing a circumstance where halacha l'maisa, the majority of Klal Yisrael is going to be tamei when Pesach comes around. So I would have thought like this. This is high time for a leap year, right? Because what could I do? Insert another adar, push Pesach a month later, and what? Everybody will have time to become tar. So the Gemara says, no, we don't do that. Halacha l'maisa, we do not make a leap year because of tumah. All right, so what do you do? So what happens then? What happens? Carbon Pesach is offered b'tumah. We both say there's a concept, and we're going to get into this more in just a bit, but there's a concept that when the majority of Klal Yisrael is tamei, we have the ability to do Carbon Pesach even b'tumah. We'll see the mechanics of that in just a little bit. So the Gemara says as follows. So therefore, so again, we do not declare a leap year just because the majority of Klal Yisrael is tamei, and declaring a leap year would give them time to go out and become tar. Rather, we just offer up the Carbon Pesach in a state of tumah. Incredible. Rabbi Yehuda says, not true. We do. Tumah is a good reason to declare a leap year. And therefore, again, halacha l'maisa will add an additional month in order to give people time to become tar. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, I'll give you a maisa. Maisa b'chizkiya melech Yehuda. This is incredible. A Maisa b'Chizkiah, right? There's a story about Chizkiah Melech Yehuda. She'iber es hashana mipnei atuma. He went ahead and he made a leap year because Klal Yisrael was tamei. Now what happened? Why was Klal Yisrael tamei? Look at Rashi, second to last line, mipnei atuma. Shenitmu b'mei achas aviv mei avodah zara shelo chashishu l'Torah vayich b'Chizkiah machziran l'mutav. The Yada shelo yaspiku kulan lavo v'litar ad pesach v'ibra hashanas. Let's listen to this. Chizkiah was a tremendous tzaddik, but his father Achaz was not. Achaz steeped Klal Yisrael in avodah zara, and by the time Chizkiah came to rulership, came to power, Klal Yisrael was tamei. Now he recognized that he was not going to be able to be metayer them, to purify them in time for Pesach. So what did he do? He made an ibriyar. He made a leap year. He added an additional month to go ahead and get it right. But I just want to point out something amazing. Chizkiah, had the ability. He was destined to be Mashiach. Why didn't he actualize that messianic identity? We know the story. I've said the story so many times. You remember Maseches Brachos? He refused to marry and have children. Now, why did he refuse to marry and have children? He had a good reason for it. Because remember, again, he saw prophetically that if he would have a son, his son would be a tremendous rasha. It's going to be very evil. So he decided not to marry, not to have children, take one for the team. Plus, remember the story of Maseches Brachos. So what happens? So he's dying. Yeshayahu comes to, and Yeshayahu and Chizkiah did not have a good relationship. Yeshayahu comes to go ahead and do Bikur Cholim. So he says, "Hi, Shalom Aleichem, Chizkiah, you're going to die." Okay, not the best Bikur Cholim etiquette, but okay, fine. Right, you're going to die. So Chizkiah says, "Why? What did I do wrong?" So Yeshayahu tells him, "Because you chose never to marry and have a family." So Chizkiah says, "I have a good reason for it. I saw a bit of blood. My son's going to be a rasha." So Yeshayahu says to Chizkiah so beautifully, he says, "Behadi kafshei drachman alam alach." Why are you involving yourself in the calculations of God? Let God run the world. You do your piece. To which Chizkiah says to Yeshayahu, "Fine, you have a daughter, I'll marry your daughter." To which Yeshayahu says, "I already told you, you're going to die." So Chizkiah says, "I have Mesorah, mi beis avi abba, from my Zayda, from David HaMelech, afilu cherev chad amunachas al tzavaro shel adam ayimanes asmen rachamim." Even if there's a sharp sword against your neck, do not despair. So sure enough, Chizkiah marries Yeshayahu's daughter, and they have a son. That son was named Menashe, the longest serving monarch of Klal Yisrael, 55 years. For 22 of them, he was a tremendous rasha. For 33 of them, he became a tzaddik, a Baal Tshuva. But I just want to point out how incredible it is to learn a Gemara about Chizkiah. Because the story of Chizkiah is a story of unactualized potential. What Chizkiah did for Klal Yisrael was dramatic. And it could have been even more. It's the power of Chizkiah's story and the tragedy of Chizkiah's story. And how incredible is it on Chanukah? What is Chanukah? The whole lesson of Chanukah is a rededication. How do you dedicate something? By unlocking its potential. So much like the greatest tragedy of life is unactualized potential. We go through life with so much potential coursing through our veins, with that little jug of oil that is just waiting to be broken open and used. That's the entire avoda of Chanukah. So Chizkiah is making a cameo appearance over here on Chanukah, telling us, I also had a lot of potential. And Chizkiah was a great tzaddik. He could have been even more. Chevra, all of us are great. But it's also important to realize that as great as we may be, we have the capacity, ability, and mandate to become even more. So Chizkiah went ahead, and Chizkiah declared an additional leap year because of Tumah. But then he davened for forgiveness. Dichsiv, ki marbis sa'am rabas me'Efrayim Menashe Yisachar Zvulun lo hitaharu amud beis ki achluas ha'pesach below kakosov ki yispalo Chizkiah aleim lemar Hashem hatov yichaper ba'ad. So ultimately, again, you see very interestingly enough that Chizkiah, he went ahead and he declared a leap year because of Tumah, but then he asked for forgiveness for it. So what do you see? What's the takeaway from this? Takeaway from this is don't do it. Don't do it. In other words, that we don't declare a leap year, ultimately, again, because of Tumah. So the Gemara says as follows, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says like this, in reality, we do not go ahead and make a leap year for Tumah purposes. They're going to both say, remember, when we say make a leap year for Tumah purposes, what does that mean? We don't make a leap year so as to allow for people to become tahor, right, to escape the clutches of Tumah. We don't do that. We don't do that. But Rabbi Shimon says, if you did it, it works. It's not ideal. In other words, we'd rather you not make a leap year for Tumah. But if you did make a leap year for Tumah, the declaration and the establishment of the leap year works. If that's the case, so if that's the case, then you shouldn't do it, but if you did it, it works, then why did Chizkiyahu have to ask for forgiveness? If what he did worked, why do you need forgiveness? It's very interesting. Because you know what Chizkiyahu did wrong? Chizkiyahu, remember again, when do you make a leap year? When do you make a leap year? In Adar. When did Chizkiyahu make a leap year? In Nisan. That was his mistake. So his mistake, in other words, so yes, was it not ideal to make a leap year for Tumah purposes? It's not ideal, but it works. So what was Chizkiyahu's? What was his quote-unquote transgression that he needed to ask forgiveness for? That he did it in Nisan, you should really do it in Adar. Incredible. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, Mishum Rabbi Shimon, Pesach Sheni. So this is very interesting. No, Chizkiyahu actually did something else wrong on both sides. What Chizkiyahu did was, he caused the people to do Pesach Sheni. Chizkiyahu, because of Tumah, told the people not to offer Pesach Rishon, but instead push them to Pesach Sheni. Now, why was that incorrect? We're going to get into this in just a moment. That's incorrect because Pesach Sheni is only there for a minority of Klal Yisrael that's Tameh. But everyone agrees that if the majority of Klal Yisrael is Tameh, everyone does Pesach Rishon and you don't do Pesach Sheni. So either Chizkiyahu's mistake was making a leap year in Nisan, or Chizkiyahu's mistake was pushing everyone to Pesach Sheni. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says that you can make a leap year even for Tumah. Alma Isle Rabbi Yehuda Tumah Dechuyu Betzibor. So the Gemara says, what does Rabbi Yehuda hold? So Rabbi Yehuda essentially says that halacha l'maisa, although it's not ideal, right? But if you did it, it works. So what does Rabbi Yehuda say? I'm about to say, we've seen this before. When it comes to Tumah, there's two different ways to look at collective Tumah. Either Tumah Hutra B'tzibor or Tumah Dechuya B'tzibor. Right? Tumah Hutra B'tzibor means when the majority of Klal Yisrael is Tameh, is as if the laws of Tumah do not exist. It's like Hutter, Mutter, right? Or Tumah Dechuya B'tzibor, which means, no, the laws of Tumah exist, but Lamaisa, they're set aside. Gemara says, "My benayu." What's the practical difference? Right? I'm sorry. So, Alma Israel Yehuda Tumah Dechuya B'tzibor. I have a time, but we learned tzitz bein sheyesh la mitzcha bein she'ena mitzcha meratza. Did Rabbi Shimon? Yeah, Rabbi Shimon says. Rabbi says, remember again, what takes care of Tumah specifically? Again, Tumah in a sacrificial realm. So the tzitz, the head plate of the Kohen, right? When the Kohen Gadol wears the tzitz, that takes care of any type of accidental Tumah when it comes to karbanos. And that's true whether the Kohen Gadol is wearing the tzitz or not wearing the tzitz. That's Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda says, Odo ametz chumratza, ein odo ametz chumratza. No, if the Kohen is wearing the tzitz, then the tzitz will go ahead and atone. But if the Kohen is not wearing the tzitz, it does not atone. Rabbi Shimon, Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippur yochiach. Rabbi Shimon says, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur will prove this point. Why? She'eno ametz chumratza. The Kohen Gadol does not wear the tzitz on Yom Kippur. Why not? Because remember again, the tzitz was gold. The Kohen Gadol does not wear the golden tzitz when he goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur at all. So the Gemara says, no. Hanach on Yom Kippur is different. Why? Shetumah chutra b'tzibor. Because Tumah, generally again, when the tzibor is tameh, the laws of Tumah are totally suspended. But according to your logic, tikshi lacha hi gufa. I don't understand. There should be an inherent question. Rabbi Yehuda says ma'abrin. Right? Rabbi Yehuda says that we can go ahead and make a leap year for Tumah purposes. Va'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Maise b'Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda, she'ibras hashanim b'nei Tumah, ubikesh rachamim al atzmo. But Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that when Chizkiyahu made a leap year because of Tumah, he had to ask for forgiveness. So which one is it? Can you do it or can't you do it? Elo, Yisroel mextra v'alchi gatani. You're right, there's a piece missing. Both say missing information. Here's the whole story. Here it is, we'll say. Eima abrenes hashanim b'nei Tumah. Ideally, we do not make a leap year because of Tumah purposes. In other words, we don't add in an extra month just to allow people, or even the rov, to become tahar, v'im ibruha mi'uberes. But if you did it, it works. So making a leap year because of Tumah is not ideal, but if you did it, it works. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda says, it does not work. It does not work. So now we've clarified the position. So Tanakama holds that you shouldn't make a leap year because of Tumah. But if you did it, it works. And Rabbi Yehuda says it does not work. It does not work. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Tumah ibruah me'uberes. But one second. Then when Rabbi Shimon says that if you did declare a leap year because of Tumah, it works. Haynu Tanakama. Rabbi Shmuel is saying the same thing as Tanakama. Amarava lechatchila ikebenayu. So we'll say, no. The machlokes is, can you do it lechatchila? The machlokes, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Shimon and Tanakamas both hold that if you make a leap year because of Tumah, it works. The shaila is, can you lechatchila make a leap year because of Tumah? That's the point of contention. That supports this. Right? You cannot go ahead and make a leap year because of Tumah. Lechatchila. Rabbi Shimon Omer Ma'abrin. Rabbi Shimon says, yes, you can. You could even go ahead and make a leap year lechatchila because of Tumah. Ela mipnei ma bikeshach malasmo. If that's the case, then why did Chizkiyahu ask for forgiveness? If you're allowed to make a leap year lechatchila because of Tumah, she'im ma'abrin ela adar v'u iber nisan b'nisan. Ultimately, again, because you can only make a leap year in Adar, and he made a leap year in Nisan. Amar Mar, she'ein ma'arvin ela Adar, v'hu avar b'Nisan, v'lesle l'Chizkiyahu. But how did Chizkiyahu do that? So I don't say Chizkiyahu made a leap year in Nisan, but again, everyone knows you can only make a leap year in Adar. What's going on over here? Doesn't Chizkiyahu know, v'lesle l'Chizkiyahu, HaChodesh hazeh lachem, zeh Nisan, ve'ein achar Nisan. Right? Doesn't Chizkiyahu know the drasha? HaChodesh hazeh lachem. This month is for you. This month is Nisan. There's only one Nisan. HaChodesh hazeh. There's only one. So how could Chizkiyahu go ahead and declare a Nisan base, right? A Nisan sheni? What's going on over here? Tush the Gemara says, Tabid Shmuel. Chizkiyahu made a mistake in the ruling of Shmuel. What does Shmuel say? Damar Shmuel. Ema abrines hashana biyom shloshim shal adar hoil v'roy lekov o Nisan. So also listen to this. No. What does it mean when we say that Chizkiyahu made a leap year in Nisan? What does that mean? He actually made the leap year on the 30th day of Adar. The halacha is you are not allowed to declare a leap year, an extra month. You can't declare Adar Beis on the 30th day of Adar. Why not? Because the 30th day of Adar could technically what? Be the first day of Nisan. However, Nisan, the Iyusavra, the Chizkiyahu felt, or he thought, Iyusavra, Hoil lo Amrinan. Chizkiyahu didn't know that halacha. He thought that the 30th day of Adar is still called Adar, and he did not know of this din of Hoil, that since the 30th day of Adar could technically be the first day of Nisan, therefore you can't declare a leap year on that day. That supports this. You cannot declare a leap year on the 30th day of Adar. Why? Because the 30th day of Adar could, technically speaking, be the first day of Nisan. So therefore, we'll say it turns out that there's a machlokes about what Chizkiyahu did wrong. Possibility one is that Chizkiyahu's mistake was that he declared a leap year for Tumah purposes, and we do not declare leap years for Tumah purposes. Possibility two is that no, you could declare a leap year for Tumah purposes. What was his mistake? He declared the leap year when? On the 30th day of Adar, and since the 30th day of Adar could technically be the first day of Nisan, you're not allowed to do that. How do we paskin? The Rambam paskins that we do not declare a leap year for Tumah purposes. See, even if we see that the majority of Klal Yisrael is going to be Tameh for Pesach, we still do not declare a leap year for that purpose, but halacha l'maisa, if you did it, it works. Right? So it should not be done, but b'di'evet, if a leap year was declared for Tumah purposes, technically speaking, it is still an effective declaration. I will say, shkoyach. Incredible start to the week. Shkoyach, everyone. All right, Chevron Zoom, everyone. Wonderful day.